Hello lovelies, welcome back. My name is Tehja and today we have another exciting video. Today we are making the Lil Kim infamous jumpsuit, the purple jumpsuit when, you know, she had one boobie out. I know it's a popular costume this year, and so I wanted to show you how to make the bomb AF one and not the cheap fashion Nova one. Also, if you did not watch the pattern making video, please watch that. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on to this video. So these are the timestamps for the video just to make it easier for y'all to watch the video and know what's what and where's where. So anyway, let's get it popping. So this is the fabric that we will be using. I chose like a lacy sequin fabric because it's just really pretty and it has a little bit of stretch to it. You can choose something that's way simple and easier to work with that isn't see-through. So I placed my pattern pieces onto my fabric. I just folded the fabric in half and just started cutting. You should have 2 of every pattern piece or every piece. So I use chalk to mark the front pants patterns pieces just to make sure that I don't get confused between the front and the back pieces for the pants because they look very, very similar. And so now I'm cutting off the top. So these are all the fabric pieces that we have. We're going to be sewing the bottoms first, the pants first. We are going to lay the bottom pattern pieces down, right sides up, and we're going to lay the front pants pieces on top so that the right sides are kissing. You're just going to pin them together on the side seam and the inseam, and also making sure that you pin the 2 different crotches together as well. And I just showing a close-up of how I pinned the crotch. I just kind of maneuvered the back pants crotch to the front pants crotch, just making sure that they're aligned together. If they pucker, it's actually fine. It's actually perfect because it's supposed to make like a little cushion, a little like curved area for your crotch. So once we pinned everything, we're going to sew 2 straight lines down. I'm using just a straight stitch. So now I'm just at the sewing machine, just making sure that I also back tack just to reinforce the thread and the stitching. And it's important to back tack on this type of fabric because it is like mesh backing. So like the, you know, spaces in between the weaves of the fabric are a little bit bigger, so it's easier for the threads to come undone. So yeah, just making sure you sew the crotch together and just make sure you take your time. I really did take my time. I didn't like zoom through this like I usually do with stuff because I really wanted this to come out well. So after you do that to both pants, we're going to pin the pants together at this like, you know, middle seam area. We are going to pin the crotches together and just making sure that right sides are kissing, and then you just pin the 2, you know, pants together at that open seam. And just super easy peasy lemon squeezy, just making sure that the right sides are kissing each other. We've finished pinning our pant legs together, and now we're going to sew same thing, straight seam all the way down and around the pants. We're going to move on to the top, and we got our 2 top pieces, and we're going to make sure that the right sides are kissing each other. And we're going to pin the small side seam together and the shoulder together. We're going to leave the long side seam open because we're going to put a zipper there. So yeah, we're going to just sew a straight seam across on both the shoulder and the smaller side seam. Alright, so now that our pants and top has been sewn pretty much, you can finish the seams with a zigzag stitch if you want. I decided not to do it because I'm just really lazy. But it's way better to finish it with a zigzag stitch. Also, I recommend cutting off the excess seam allowance on the pants. With this fabric especially, like the pants do start to look bulky if you don't cut off the extra seam allowance. So anyway, we're going to move on to actually putting the jumpsuit together. And so we're going to sew the top to the pants. And so we're going to connect the waist of the top to the waist of the pants, first at the side seams that they have, and making sure you pin those together, and then you're just going to pin all the way around. Yep, and you're just going to sew at a 1/2 inch. And now we're just going to attach the zipper. I used a 14-inch zipper. I did have to open up the seam of the pants a little bit, so a 12-inch zipper would have been perfect if you followed exactly what I was doing. We're going to just pin the edges of the fabric to each side of the zipper at the top of the jumpsuit. And we're just going to pin each side of the zipper with each side, or each side of the side seam. And I used the invisible zipper as well. So when you pin it, it should look something like that, and you just do the same thing to the other side of the zipper, and just make sure when you pin it that you can open and close the zipper as well, just to make sure that the zipper works. So the zipper should look like that when it's closed, so you can barely see it for the most part, and that's the beauty of an invisible zipper. So now we're going to, well, first I actually basted the zipper onto my jumpsuit just to make it easier to sew. I found it way easier than just using pins. And then we're just going to take it to the sewing machine. Now to sew the zipper on, I actually used a zipper foot for the sewing machine. You can use a regular foot if you want to. It's just a little bit more challenging to use, but you can definitely do it. But it's just easier to use a zipper foot, and I just changed it. It's really easy to do on your sewing machine if you just read the manual and the directions. So I just used that just to sew the zipper onto my jumpsuit. And now I'm just sewing the other side of the zipper, and we're literally at the home stretch. It's like you finish the most complicated part after you sew the zipper on. Also for me, when I pinned the jumpsuit, I noticed that, or pinned the zipper to the jumpsuit, I noticed I had like some excess fabric that needed to be cut off. So I do that afterwards, but that's why you see a little bit of excess hang off fabric as well, because I noticed that like the jumpsuit would pucker or stick, or the zipper would pucker or stick out. Now that I'm done sewing the zipper, I'm closing it just to test it out, and also to see where the excess fabric that I need to cut off is. So I'm just going to do that really quickly. And I'm also taking out my basting stitch as well. So now I cut off the trim from the rest of the fabric that we had left over. I wish I had more, but my ass had to be tall, so I had to use more fabric. But I cut off the trim of the fabric. Pretty much just, I'll link my prom dress video of how I show you how to cut appliques out of fabric. It's like literally the same method of how I did it for this trim. And we're going to sew this at the collar, the hem of the collar of the top of the jumpsuit. Once I buy more fabric, I'll probably do it for the jumpsuit legs and also the armhole. Now I'm taking the trim and I'm pretty much going to position it in the way that I think would look the best on the collar. And sometimes you have to maneuver it, and you gotta like check in the mirror to see if it looks good and if it cuts right. You know, and that, you know, since you have such a specific collar, you gotta make sure that it's in the right places. So once I've figured that out, which I could have did a little bit of a better job, to be honest, you just pin it and then you hand sew it on. I'm using the same thread that I used to sew the actual jumpsuit together, and I'm pretty much going like around the threading of the trim. I'm trying to disguise the thread as much as possible because it's not an exact match. The thread that I used to sew is a little bit more red than the fabric of the jumpsuit. Like the jumpsuit is like really blue based purple, and mine is like, my thread isn't as blue based, and so I kind of had to disguise it a little bit more, but it's really not hard. When you're finished sewing the trim to the a hem of the collar, then you will sew the ends of the trim to the rest of the jumpsuit to make sure that the trim lays flat on your body when you're wearing it. And once you're done, doing that to the front and the back of the jumpsuit at the collar, then you're pretty much done. You can do it to the pants legs and the armhole. Once you're done sewing the trim onto the jumpsuit, then you're like done. I do have a pasty making video as well to make like the pasty that I wore in the intro, because I made it and I was going to include it with this video, but I figured the video would be a little bit too long, so I made it as a separate video. So if you want to check that out, it will be released tomorrow or the next day depending on my schedule, and it's really super easy and simple to do. Alright lovelies, this is how the jumpsuit came out, and I'm freaking in love, and the way I did my makeup and the wig and the pasty all together with the jumpsuit totally gives me like Lil Kim vibes. Like I really do like feel like her. Like this is literally one of my proudest projects that I've ever done. And I love it freaking so much, and it just looks so bomb. So if you recreate this Lil Kim jumpsuit, please tag me at TC Season on Instagram, so I can see your beautiful creations and all of that good stuff. And I'll be trying to do some other Halloween videos before the month is up, because I know I'm mad late. Anyway, as always, love yourself, and I will see you next video. Mwah!